One sound, one scene, one love, one team, one vision, one dream. It's way more than it seems. Aspire, inspire, and we pouring in the others. We gotta stay unified. We gotta support each other. One sound, one scene, one love, one team, one vision, one dream. It's way more than it seems. Aspire, inspire, and we pouring in the others. We gotta stay unified. We gotta support each other. I double tap my people picture. I show them love anywhere. Social media in person. I'm showing love anywhere.
Thanks for tuning in to One Sound, One Seed podcast. It's your girl, Lay Marie.
And your girl, Yashika Kai.
Today, we have a very special guest joining us on the show today. We are actually located at her campaign headquarters, Miss Valerie Gotch Garrett. She is running for District Court Judge Division B. How are you doing today, Miss Garrett?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome.
I'm excited.
We're excited to be here. Now, for those who aren't familiar with you, who is Valerie Gotch Garrett?
Valerie Gotch Garrett is first a mother, daughter, a believer, lawyer for 26 years, almost 27 in October of this year. But more importantly, I'm from here. Homegrown from Macomb.
Yeah, we like that.
All my life. And so I have located my business in the heart of North Lafayette.
Right.
Because I want to serve the community. And that was a dream from grandparents. And so I'm glad and grateful that I've been able to have that business for 26 plus years and been able to help my community, which is very important in my family roots.
Right.
Right. Because it's important if you're going to exist and you know, to help. If you're going to be in this area to help.
That's correct. And the interesting thing is when I went to law school, people don't know I had no money. And at the time that that I got accepted to law school, my husband was disabled, and I had 2 babies. And when I got the acceptance, you know, we were raised with a sense of pride, but also with a sense of community. So you had to be able to take care of yourself in order to take care of others.
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
And so to me, it was a difficult decision to make, to leave a job and to be plagued at the time by a racial act that then motivated me to leave that job but not have anything else. And at that moment, God stepped in and said, it's your time, because it was always something I wanted to do since young.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing and the God thing was that there was a man, Mr. Neighbors, who we all knew from our family. And I remember having the conversation with my mom that finally I get the dream I want and I can't pay for it.
Wow.
And she said, call Mr. Neighbors. He's on the Southern Board. He's a family friend. It's like, how am I going to call somebody and ask them for help?
Yeah.
And I don't have no money.
Right.
Well, lo and behold, Mr. Neighbors said, all I want you to do is one thing. I'm going to open the door and help you get there, but you have to help someone else. So the journey began where I drove to school every day in an old car. And there was a gentleman that was on the corner where it's a throughway where the Exxon is. And I would fill up the car there, drive to school every morning until all of my scholarships and financial aid was able to be processed.
That's amazing.
With my 2 babies.
Wow.
Until I was able to move there. When I started law school, I had pneumonia. When I finished law school, I had surgery. I missed the maximum days I could miss. But all I know is that I was destined to do that because it was easier than getting my undergraduate degree.
Right.
Right.
And but for the seeds that had been sown by my parents and grandparents, that an opportunity might have been more difficult to ascertain. But I'm grateful. And so my promise to Mr. Neighbors, he passed away last year, but my promise was to come back and to reach out and help. And I am proud to be able to say that I have honored those words that I gave him that I would do.
Awesome.
Yes, yes.
That's simply amazing. That was pretty much a battle that you conquered through law school.
It was.
Because you know a lot
It
of people
was.
when it get hard, they want to quit,
Give
they
up.
want to give up, they want to find every excuse to give up.
But not only that, even before, as we started integration here, you know, there were teachers that would tell me that that was unacceptable, that we couldn't be lawyers. So even though grandparents and parents were telling us we could, and I was watching Thurgood Marshall and all the things he was doing, when someone tells you who you think is an authority and the educator over your life,
Educator, yeah,
you
supposed to teach
receive it and say, well, maybe they
Maybe
see
it's not
something
possible.
that's not possible.
Yeah.
So, but when you're destined to do something, no matter how hard you try to avoid it, it'll always circle back.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes,
And mine circled back as I was getting my master's, trying to go to school and working. Mine circled back, and the opportunity came back again. And so God took me down that path, and here I am.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay, so as we all know, this month is Black History Month.
Yes.
And most people are excited about celebrating our culture and what they have sacrificed for us to have rights, especially the right to vote. So let's talk about the importance of voting.
The importance of the right to vote is people don't realize that one vote can change the dynamics in the course of people's lives.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so sometimes we say, I'm not going to vote because I don't like what's going on. But I think they forget that not voting also makes
It
a
hurts.
statement.
Yes.
And it also, by their lack of voting, it changes things too. So why not be proactive, not sit on the fence and complain, and just like the men and women before us who went through such horrific things to get us that ability and right, from women to African Americans,
Right.
to stand on the line and get hosed and get beaten for simply a right that should have been easy to ascertain.
Right.
And so now with the new act, it's 636, that Louisiana has recently passed, where before, if you had a conviction, you could not
Right.
have the right to
To
vote.
vote.
And so now even that was a way of suppressing how the Voter Rights Act was utilized. So there's no excuse not to vote.
Right.
Right.
We are we are seeing lists purged because people are becoming inactive. You saw so much excitement in the African American community when Obama was there.
Right.
That same excitement needs to be there every time there's a race, every time there's an election, every time there's a change or a shift, because what we fail to see is the people that we put in office, it trickles down to us anyway.
Yes.
So if I vote for somebody, or don't vote for someone who wants to take away health care,
Right.
or want to take away education, or want to take away or minimize it, or minimize teachers and their ability to earn a living, or reduce that, or change how your children go to school and what they should be learning.
Yeah.
If you sit and don't vote, then you change
Change.
and impact it just as much as if you did.
That's
Exactly.
right.
So
So
Yes.
why not be proactive?
Yes.
Right. Especially the millennials.
Yes.
You know, and I'm a millennial. Like, we sit down and we be like, well, I'm not going to vote because I don't like what's going on, like
Right.
what you mentioned earlier, and we don't vote at all.
Right.
And so, millennials, I want to encourage you guys to vote. Please vote. Exercise your right to vote, because it's not only going to affect us now, but the generations to come.
It absolutely will.
Yeah.
Very much like what we're seeing now, and there are people. The votes have been restored. There's qualifications that they have to meet, and there's things that they have to do in order. Like if you're on probation or parole, and it's been for 5 years, there's these nuances that you have to work through. But isn't it worth it?
Right.
Yes.
Isn't it
Right.
worth it to get back? And you know, as we journeyed through this, we've met people that have been incarcerated for years, and the privilege they feel to go through the process to regain their right to
Yes,
vote,
yes.
and not to be aware that it actually exists, and that people in the legislature fought for their rights to be restored,
Right.
because they've served their time. And so we have to be a community of restoration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Things happen, people get into trouble, but we have to be a community of
The
restoration and rehabilitation. And so that's what we learned growing up, you know, community. I remember my grandfather would get paid and he'd keep some money in his pocket, and we'd say, well, Paul, why you have money in your pocket? Well, baby, we believe in community.
Right.
And so you see the young mother over there, sometimes they run short. and we're there to support them and lift them up.
Yeah.
And so it's what we are taught. It's our values here.
Awesome.
And that's what makes us unique in this community.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned Act 636, and I picked up one of these little brochures here from Val's office here in Lafayette. The address is 701 North Pierce Street. If you guys want to come in and stop and pick up one of these brochures, but what it basically says is anyone who is off of probation or parole, or has been on parole for at least 5 years, or is on probation and hasn't been reincarcerated on a new conviction can vote now. Okay, so it tells you who can vote, how to vote, and when to vote. So if you guys want more information on that, please stop by the office of Miss Valerie Gotch Garrett here in Lafayette.
There's also an organization out there called Vote.
Okay.
And that organization is diligently working for those restoration of those rights and encouraging people to participate. And they're also knocking on doors and they're very visible in the community. They have a phone number as well on the card, which you can reach out and call them. And I think it's 212
5071. So that the number again is 337-212-5074.
And they're there and available to give you any information that you have, to walk you through the process. Someone in our office can also direct you where you need to go. But it's really important, especially with these elections coming up this year. So I encourage everybody to participate, to be part of the community, to be part of that movement and for change. Be a change agent.
Yep, a change agent. I like that.
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that there are 2 minority seats available for district judge. What exactly does this mean to the voters?
I guess it was probably on about 1992, maybe, there were lawyers who were running. In order to run for judge, you have to be a practicing attorney for a certain amount of time. Well, during a period of time, lawyers, African Americans, minorities, were running and not successful in winning. After a period of time, they collected the data and had the statistics, and there was a suit filed. And the suit that was filed, I think it was it was Romer's time, Governor Romer's time. And it was Janice G. Clark versus Romner, governor of Louisiana, and it was June 3rd of 1991. And that's the time that created the ability for us to have minority seats. So our race, my race, is coming out of Judicial District 1, which includes Rain, Scott, Dusson, Church Point, sections of Muir. It may not include the entirety of the area, but it's sections plus North Port of Lafayette, and it moves through sometimes some part of the downtown area as well. The district is historically carved and created where the minorities are the majorities and are able to vote for 2 seats. Now, because it's been 26 years since the first judges sat in this area, first minority judges, I think people may have forgotten the history of how they got there. There were lawyers right in this community that participated in that litigation and collecting the data in order for those seats to be created. And I commend Janice Clark and those others who had to put their names on the line for those seats to be born. And so now we have an opportunity for those seats again, and they're Division B and Division D. And those seats have been actually held by Judge Rubin and Judge Edwards. And so now those seats are what we're going to vote on November 3rd. And I think there's some confusion for people, and they need to understand that they're going to get to vote for 2. In some cases, maybe 3, because there are several judicial seats available, but they all are proportionate to districts. And it's the 50 JDC. So those judges, whoever are elected, travel the tri-parish area. So they travel to Vermilion, they travel to Acadia, and they sit in Lafayette as well.
Okay, cool. So we got a chance to make history.
Again,
it's been a while.
To preserve, to preserve the
history.
To preserve the history. And I thought that was a befitting time to talk about it during Black History Month because of how it came about. And because of the lawyers that sacrificed and the people that sacrificed and walked the streets, there was so much excitement. I was coming out of law school when it was happening. And so much excitement was generated. We need to have that same excitement again, you know, about the ability to select 2 new judges, you know.
And you know, not just that, because like my little girls, when they see your poster, it is so
It
important
it's
to have
inspiring.
somebody that look like you.
Yes.
To strive for something so high and so big, and it builds belief in them.
Yes.
So when they see your billboard out in the community, they be like, "Mom, that's our cousin." They so excited about it. And then they like, "Well, what is she, Mom? What is she?" I say, "She's a lawyer." So what does a lawyer do? So I explained to them, I think I might want to do that. So, you know, you're inspiring.
Well, and others have told me that, and I guess it's very humbling because as I move to do things in the community, I mean, I've served on many boards. Those things are natural occurrences for me because of the way we were raised. And so I don't give a whole lot of thought to the impact or how people perceive it. I simply give and believe that I'm blessed. So therefore, because I'm blessed, then I should share it and I should help. So for me, it is really humbling to hear that. Because I remember being 7 and watching when King was killed and Kennedy was killed and Thurgood Marshall, and the history of segregation was happening and integration was moving. And so to me, those people are heroes.
Right.
Especially the little girls who had to go in to the schools when integration was happening. So for me, it's really humbling for people to look at me that way, to do something that I really love to do, and to do something that comes naturally to do, the need to want and to help.
Yeah.
And so I could have had my practice anywhere.
Right.
But I remember when this building came about, it was my mom, my grandmother, who said, "No, that's where you need to be."
Yeah.
And so inspiring to look at the people who've gone before us. So I am touched and honored and humbled when I get those responses from children or from even adults, you know. And so it really motivates me to do more, and to really some days it brings me to tears.
Yeah. But when you're passion driven and you're following your purpose, that's what happens.
Yes.
That's what happens automatically. That's what happens.
Just natural. Okay, so how important is authenticity to you?
It's real. It's real. It's real. I know that sometimes we look at people and we say, is that how they always are? Some people say passion. You know, if what you see sometimes and what you see in the courtroom is two different things.
Oh, yes.
And so if
Time and a place for everything.
it is, and sometimes when I step in that well and there's a young man or a young woman and there's a need, I come out of myself. Because as a kid, I wasn't really very vocal. We were taught to be seen and not heard. But it's something about when someone is in trouble and you're the difference between whether they go home, whether they get a fair trial, whether they get a fair hearing, whether they get access to the court system. It is something that changes in me when I'm in that well of fighting for that individual or trying to mitigate the circumstances for that individual versus when you see me out and about.
Right.
It really is a passion driven, as you said, and it really helps motivate you into your purpose. So you may see me and say, "Who is that lady there? She's fussing at that. No, what's wrong with her?"
Yeah.
But it really is what I see that needs to be done. So whatever I'm asking you to do, my grandmother always taught us, be prepared to roll up your sleeves and get in there too.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I never think myself above anybody else because we're always, as I say to people, that your child could be mine,
Right.
and anything could happen to one of mine.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so I always have to sow a seed knowing that that child, that young man, that young woman that child belongs to someone. And I would hope that when something happens to mine, people give mine the
Right.
same grace, the same courtesy, and the same care as I gave for someone else. So being authentic is crucial to me.
Oh yeah.
It really is. And sometimes we have to be careful in the environment, the professional environment. But it really is important to know who you are and where you come from.
All right now.
Yeah. A lot of people forget that.
Yes.
And they lose themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
Themselves. Let me be politically
Themselves.
correct.
Yep.
Yes.
So, moving on to something a little bit more light. Okay. So this weekend, we're going to be in the Karen Crow Mardi
Oh,
Gras
yes,
Parade.
yes.
Woo! On the 15th, that's this Saturday, guys. We're going to be on the Valerie Gotch Garrett float. Let me show you guys these beautiful shirts that we are going to be wearing. So when you see us in this shirt and in this cap, give us a little bit more extra excitement, guys.
Yes,
and then we're
please.
going to give you a little bit more extra goodies. How about that?
Yes. I didn't realize how much work
Yes.
those parades are. Oh, goodness.
Yes. So not only are you going to be in the Karen Crow Parade, but what other parades are you going to be starring in?
Oh, look, we've already
Because it's a production.
Yeah, it really
Sorry.
is. Because we literally have been in the Christmas parade in Rain, and we were in, what is the parade? Christmas parade in Rain, and I think we were in the Crowley parade.
Okay.
We're in the Crowley parade for Christmas. But this week we start in, as you said, Scott and Karen Crow. We will have a smaller production in Rain, and then we'll be in the Independent Parade as well as the Heritage Parade.
Ooh, Lord.
Yes, yeah, yes,
Ooh, Lord. I'm going to for surely be in the Karen Crow Parade.
yes.
I'm going to let you know on the other dates.
And look, the best part about campaigning is really the people.
Yeah.
You know, seeing the people,
Touching them.
Yeah. Because I was in the King Parade, and well, I've been in the King Parade probably for the past 6 years, and I walked the King Parade. And I walked the King Parade, but you know, I look forward to it now because when I walk it, I get hugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get people who sometimes I've forgotten the work that has been done over the years. Because I served as a public defender for most of my career, both in criminal and both in state and federal court.
So you impacted a lot of lives.
So when I look back and I see people in the community doing well, I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I was able to make a difference in their life. And they remind me how great and how wonderful their experience was when they were in a trouble moment.
Right.
And for me, it was doing the work that I love to do. But I think I've said this before. I think when people, I'm representing them, they think it begins and ends in my office, but it doesn't for me.
Just the start.
It's just a start. I could be in the grocery store and I'm thinking about it, and I carry them in my heart.
Right.
And sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know.
You can't even turn it off sometimes.
Sometimes you can't.
You know, I don't even do the type of work that you do, but what I do, sometimes I can't turn it off. And I'm
Yes.
like, brain, just let me get some rest tonight.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Oh
That's
my God.
correct.
So I can
But you
kinda
know
relate.
that's all about passion. You know that comes with passion.
It is. And particularly, I think that as you mature into it, you want to be able to have someone on the bench that's had a broad range of experience. But I think that people tend to forget that we bring our life experiences with us.
Right.
We bring the things that we have learned through education, through work, through our life experiences interrelating with people, because think about it, most of the things we do interrelate with people and understanding behavior
Right.
and understanding need and understanding the things that pull people together to make them who they are.
Right.
And so and it didn't really dawn on me till you hear the words jury of your peers.
Right. And what that actually
And
means.
what that actually means.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think of those terms, you have to be able to equalize justice for all.
Yes.
And be able to apply the law as well as look at the mitigating factors that brought that person to where they are.
And at the same time, be unbiased.
And be unbiased.
And I'm pretty sure that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
have to put your
Yeah.
own personal feelings to
Feelings
the
aside.
side
yeah.
and look at
and
the
go
law.
by the law.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes people think, well, you can bend the law, you can change. No.
It's too much of
No.
that already
Yes.
going on. You
Yes.
always want to be honest.
And
Yeah.
that's people
And
lives
do the
at
right
stake.
thing.
That's
You
right.
can't bend the
That's
law.
right.
Yes.
Because if I bend the law for you, the person that you offended, you know, they may
That's
have
right.
some long-term effect because of that and vice versa.
That's
So
right.
you have to be by the book, by the law, and do what's right.
But you have
right.
sometimes an opportunity to take the law and not modify it, but take the law and look at the application of it and look at the exceptionalities when they exist. And when they exist, to be able to apply it, but to apply it equitably
Yeah.
as the circumstances that are before you, because it's a presentation of what the lawyers give to the judge, and then the law that the judge has to apply to those particular facts and circumstances, and move those parties forward with some wisdom.
A teaching moment.
It's a
Yes.
teachable
For all
moment.
involved.
Yeah,
All
teachable
parties.
moment.
All
And I say that to
parties.
my kids often because, and I'm a mother of 5, and my babies are 22, and they're autistic. So having autistic children really make you step back and look at people differently,
Yeah.
because there are exceptionalities sometimes, mental health.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more mental health courts.
Yes.
Because sometimes people have a crime that they commit that's tied into a mental health issue.
Right.
You know, sometimes it's tied into a substance abuse issue. In Lafayette Parish, we have a drug court system.
Right.
You know, we have juvenile crime on the rise.
Yes.
You know, but I'm also finding that we have some mental health issues associated with juveniles and what is happening. So there's lots of work to do.
I know.
Being a judge is not,
Slamming your gavel.
no, it's work.
I know.
And you've got to be prepared to work and to know the community you live in.
That's
The-
important.
all the community.
That's the important part. I think it's
You
very
have to
important. Yes,
understand
you
that.
have to. You have to.
And it has to apply to all. And when I talk about community, I'm talking about all of the community.
Right.
Not just looking at the minority communities, but we have communities outside of Lafayette that the judges represent, and their constituents are there. We have to be able to stay connected as best we can without creating biases by that connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you come before the judge, you want fairness.
Fairness.
You want justice, you want fairness, you want the rule of law to apply properly to you, and you don't want to have, and you want to be treated with respect.
Right.
With respect.
Yes. Glad you said that.
Lawyers, the people who appear before the judge, and understanding. Understanding when you appear, because some people appear for the very first time.
Right. They're nervous, they're
Yeah.
scared, and, you know, may not even be in big trouble. But, you know, I done been there, watched people go through it, and you don't never know what you're getting yourself into until it
Till-
applies to you.
Yeah.
And that's great that you can differentiate case by case,
You have
because
to.
one person may have a mental health issue, as you mentioned before. Another person may have a substance abuse issue, and then somebody may just be blatantly crazy and just want to do it.
Yes.
But as a judge, you can differentiate and put that person in the proper treatment facility
Right.
that is needed, and not just lock them up in a cage, so to speak, but help them get some rehabilitation to one day maybe have a better life.
Right. Not only that, you have to be able to say at times, sometimes you need to go sit down.
Yeah.
Lay down.
You need to go sit down and be able to do that. If that's your time, you know. And unfortunately, I've had clients that had to do time, and even when I see them come out, I am so blessed when they come to see me, and they say, Miss Garrett, I've got my high school diploma, I've gotten an education, you know, I've gotten another chance. Second chances are important to people. And so I've gotten another chance. And then you realize the things that you have done and the work you have done has not been in vain.
Right.
Even if you touch one, it has not been in vain. So my practice is family law,
Awesome.
criminal defense. I've done a lot of that. I've done some personal injury, civil litigation, but families and the impact that I have been able to make on families has been really important to me.
Yeah.
Because of my own children and my own children's struggles, it's really important to see and look out into the community and see what you can do. I mean, I've served on the autism board. I've served as a Lafayette Airport commissioner, the chairwoman when we did the new terminal. The new terminal. That was so exciting, but also I was able to help make policy during that time. You know, awards and accolades are wonderful, but the best thing for me is when a client comes back or I meet them at the parade, and they give me a hug and say, remember me? I went through this, but look where I am today.
Yeah.
Or they drive by and say, Ms. Garrett, I just came to see you and tell you thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making an impact.
Yes.
It's
yes.
indescribable.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. Or even in church service, if they pass, remember me? I said, now come on, you're going to have to give me a little help here. Okay?
You know how many people I done ran through
You
these 26 plus years?
you have to give me a little help. But I never forget the faces, you know, other stories. And I had one young lady that came to me, she must have been in high school, or just graduated, I guess, scared. And she said, I met you in the courtroom, and you say, baby, don't worry about it, it's gonna be all right. Now sit right there, I'm gonna go do this. And you go, and she said, you just didn't know how scared I was.
Wow.
I met her maybe 15 years later, had a family, had gotten a business of her own, and all I could do was hug her.
Yeah. Yeah, I gave her comfort.
All I could do was hug her.
That's awesome. Awesome work. Yeah. I'm so happy to be sitting here. I learned so much.
Yeah, me too.
Learned
Me
so
too.
much.
Me too.
Few minutes we've been sitting here. Like,
Me
you have
too.
enlightened me. Like, I've learned so much. You just don't know.
I'm glad.
Well, we appreciate you so much for taking the time to speak with us and do this interview. And y'all be on the lookout for Valerie Gotch Garrett as she run for District Judge, Division B.
And you know the Gotch. Some people have a tongue twister with Gotch, but I had a roommate that said, hey, Gotch, that's all she called me. The other day I was in the store and they said, gotcha. I said, oh, you joking me? Because that oftentimes people say gotcha.
Yeah,
you know?
I get that a lot too.
Yes. But it is my pleasure to sit here with you. I was humble. Y'all asked me to participate.
Yes.
And particularly to be in your debut
Yes.
live.
The mobile interview,
Yes.
Well, this concludes episode 2 of the show. It's been super fun. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, Miss Valerie. And
Thank you for educating us.
Yes, that too. That
So
too.
remember, Valerie
Gotch
Gotch
Garrett,
District Court Judge,
Division B.
November 3rd. But first, get your early voting.
Yes.
Because early voting is October. I'm coming to your city. I'm going to meet you. So I look forward to it. And I'm so happy to be a candidate in this race.
Yes. Again, thanks so much for tuning into One Sound, One Scene podcast. Always remember, if you help enough people get what they want, you will always get what you want. Aspire, inspire, and pour into others. Until next time, folks, One Sound, One Scene, we are out.
One sound, one scene, one love, one team, one vision, one dream. It's way more than it seems.